going to learn about a couple more types of figurative language today. So far we have learned about similes and metaphors. We've learned about personification, and we have learned about idioms. We studied those yesterday. So today we're going to learn about alliteration and onomatopoeia. So when I say the word alliteration, I always look at A-L-L, and I think almost all of the letters begin with the same sound in the phrase that you're writing. So the definition is, this happens when words that start with the same sound, not just the same letter, are used repeatedly in a phrase or a sentence. The sound is usually a consonant, and the words don't have to be right next to each other. So I wrote one. I wrote Sally sips sweet cider. And so all of these words begin with the same sound, but they don't have to. And here's some other examples. Hannah Harriet happily hopped home from hopscotch. Gregory Grumble grew great green Greek grapes. Billy Bob blew big bubbles. Meredith made muffins with milk. So those are all examples of alliteration. And I know this morning when we wrote our poem that there were some examples in that poem. Even just two words together could be an alliteration if they begin with the same sound. Then onomatopoeia, that's an interesting word. It's a funny word to spell too. Onomatopoeias actually make the sound that they say. So the definition is, it's when a word describes a sound and actually mimics the sound of the object or action it refers to when it is spoken. And these are words like bang, bop, pop, boom, cuckoo, crash, whack, thump, giggle, shush, whine, boing, vroom, zap, honk, beep. Those are all examples of onomatopoeia. This is the word, but that's the sound that it actually makes. Honk, pop. This is the word, but that's actually the sound that it makes. Boing, that's the word, but that's the sound that it also makes. So those are onomatopoeias. I want us to look through a couple of books and see if we can find some examples of our figurative language. So I have this book by Marianne Hoberman, The 7 Silly Eaters. Now they have rhyming words in here like Little Jack, his hair's so black, cross applesauce. Here's an example of alliteration. Mrs. Peters faintly frowned. Faintly frowned. Peter Peters. Precious Peters. It had a lot of kids. So there's some examples of alliteration. In this book, let me come over here. I know this is a little bit young for y'all. We're going on a bear hunt. But it had some really good examples of onomatopoeia. A swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. Splash, splosh, splash, splosh. Stumble. Squelch, squirch. So those are some examples. Onomatopoeia. The Little Island. by Margaret Wise Brown. Has a good example of simile. It has, "What a little island," said the kitten. "This little island is as little as big is big." So when you have a simile, you're comparing with like or as. Lily's Purple Plastic Purse by Kevin Inks. Purple plastic purse. That's an example on the title of a what? Alliteration. Also, here's an example. Clickety, clickety, click. What would that be? Onomatopoeia. Purple plastic purse. I'm sure there's even more in here. Jingly might be an onomatopoeia. So there's some examples in there. Then it's an older book, White Snow, Bright Snow by Alvin Tresselt. See what's in here. A policeman said it felt like snow. Like. That's just saying what it feels like. That's not comparing. Let's see. Snowflake to fall into soft, powdery. Snowflakes whispering quietly as they sifted down. Whispering quietly. What example of figurative language would that be? You're right, that's personification. Snowflakes are not really going to whisper. Let's see. The wind pushed light puffs of white from the branches, while the melting snow on rooftops dripped, dripped, dripped into long, shiny icicles. So that would be an example of onomatopoeia. Water gurgled in gutters and rain pipes. So there's some examples in this book. I love Owl Moon. It's also a Caldecott winner by Jane Yolen. It's a wonderful author. And in here, I think I know where it is. I think there's an example of metaphor. But before we talk about that or find that, our feet crunched, to be onomatopoeia, over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Little gray footprints. That would be personification, wouldn't it be? Paw made a long shadow, but mine was short, round. My shadow bumped after me. Hoo hoo hoo. Would that be an onomatopoeia? The moon made his face into a silver mask. Would that be personification? So they're going owling, to be quiet, make your own heat. The shadows were the blackest I'd ever seen. My mouth felt furry. Love the language in this book. When you have to go owling, you have to be brave. Here's something right here. Over the center of the clearing and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. Was whiter. I was talking about the moon. Would that be an example of one? Then there's a lot of hooing, and then all of a sudden, nothing in the meadow moved. Part of the big tree shadow lifted off and flew right over us. The shadow hooted again. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without a sound. So comparing the owl to a shadow would be what? Simile, you're comparing with like or as. And then down at the bottom it says, but I was a shadow as we walked home. Saying that he was a shadow. So that's a metaphor. So there's simile and metaphor on that one page. Owl Moon. The Storm Boat by Charlotte Zolotow. She's one of my favorite authors, and this received the Caldecott Medal. The pictures by Margaret Bloy Graham. And this book is interesting because there are illustrations on one page and then the writing on the next page. The slightest whisper of a breeze. As I read, I want you to think about what this would be. He waits and sees dark clouds beginning to form, throwing their shadow over the parched fields, till they cover the sky and the world is black as night. Comparing with like or as. The cool wind races through the trees, sways the rambler roses, bends the daisies and buttercups, and Queen Anne's lace and the long grass until they make a great silver sign stretch down the hill. There's several examples in that. And then the lightning comes, roaring thunder. And the lightning was like a wild white wolf running free in the woods, and the lamp like the gentle white terrier who came when the little boy called. The thunder draws closer, rolling loudly nearer, until with a sudden explosion it crashes overhead and a silver torrent of rain slants down, sweeping over the roses and trees as they toss in the cool, huge arms of the storm. So this is packed with all sorts of examples. Here's one more. In the mountains, the rain comes down like a waterfall. So it compares with like or as, being a simile. So look at some books that you have at home, or look at some books that are in epic, and see if you can find some examples of figurative language. Anything, see what you can find. 10 tall, even on the titles of books, you can find examples. So today, we added alliteration and onomatopoeia to our types of figurative language that we've been learning about. We'll have another lesson later. Bye.